And Edison Now is back for another edition, a special Metuchen edition right here. Hello, everybody. Edison Now here. Chris Lugo here from Edison Now. Thanks again for joining us again. We definitely appreciate all your support in the past, and our viewers in Woodbridge and our viewers in Metuchen. And as you can see from the intro slide right there, we have a special Metuchen edition, and I have a couple of special guests here, Metuchen residents, future and looking for council seats, as a matter of fact, candidates potentially for town council. I'd like to welcome Eric Lignell and Steve Kitsko. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's good to be here.
Oh, no, thanks so much for being here. It's greatly appreciated. This is our new place here. Well, not necessarily new, but we needed a place to bring this indoors, so we found this little office suite right here, we're getting everything going. Talking to a lot of people, and I appreciate you coming around. I definitely appreciate it. Sure. Eric, if you don't mind, please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Eric Lignell. My wife Angelica and I have been living in Metuchen for 23 years, and I'm running for Metuchen Borough Council. We've raised 3 girls here. 26, 23, and 17 years old.
Okay.
And, I'm pretty active with volunteering. I volunteered at the Metuchen Pool for almost the entire time I've lived in Metuchen.
Okay.
Probably did about 15 years at the YMCA. So I think I've got a lot to offer other residents. I'd like to be an advocate for other residents. I've raised all my kids through the Metuchen schools. My 2 oldest daughters are out of college already, but I think...
Excellent.
I've been around the block, so I think I know how things work, and I think I can help people and help with some of their concerns. But that's why I'm running for Borough Council.
Oh, excellent. Oh, no, thank you for that. And we have Steve Kitsko.
Hi, Steve Kitsko. I'm also running for Borough Council, and I've lived in Metuchen for 27 years. Moved here with my wife, Jill, with my then 3-year-old son, and then since then we've had another son. I'm going to publicly embarrass them because their names are Benjamin Franklin Kitsko and Daniel Webster Kitsko.
Excellent. Excellent. I like that, actually.
I'm sorry, guys, but I had to do it. And then been involved in the community since we moved in. Started out doing dad things, coaching sports and helping out as a band parent. I single-handedly created the Metuchen Music Education and Development Organization to help. It's a 501c3 registered charity in New Jersey that supports the music programs in Metuchen High School.
Right.
And I've been involved in the community in other ways, just various ad hoc things for that. I've got a good background. I've got a master's degree in finance, and I've worked in information technology my entire career in the investment financial industries.
Excellent. Nice.
So it's like I've got the experience and the interest, and I've got a track record of supporting the community.
Excellent. And very good cases you both state. And actually, I want to go on a record. I think I want to make a correction, because I think when I introduced you guys, I think I said town council. More specifically, it's borough council.
Yes, Metuchen Borough Council.
Metuchen Borough. That's my mistake, But
New Jersey.
I caught my mistake, So and I fess up to him. So so we do have a couple of topics here that seem to be rather popular around town, and I know one of them has to do with the Metuchen Pool, actually, and I know Eric, would you like to bring us up to date as a status or the situational awareness we could actually put
absolutely
for the pool?
Sure. Well, Metuchen Municipal Pool it's a gem for the town. I think built in the 60s, 1967 or 68, I believe.
Yeah.
But I've been a member since I moved to town. Very popular, probably by far the most popular recreational place in Metuchen.
Right.
They've got a terrific pool, swim team. All my girls swam all the way up through the swim team. And most kids swim through Metuchen Municipal Pool, and they move on to the YMCA, or they go to the Metuchen or the New Jersey Scarlets.
Okay.
But there's been quite a few kids who've actually gotten college scholarships.
Oh, excellent.
Through the swim program. So
Very
it's
nice.
always been a very elite program. However, the last several years it's gone downhill. I think the borough has not been maintaining the pool. I mean, it's probably it was built in the late '60s, and it's in need of really big repair.
Yeah, there was an engineering study just recently done that they need $4.2 million worth of capital improvements to make the pool competitive again, and to make it to extend its life another 40 or 50 years. So I mean, it's at the end of its useful life, but they still have a couple more years out of it. But they recognize that there's, they need money to fill it.
There are some small fixes that can be done. I mean, some of the minute things that's wrong with the pool, lanes 1, 2, and 3. For competitive swimming, Metuchen Municipal Pool, it's not 5 feet deep, so it's technically illegal to run. Have blocks, have diving in from blocks into that shallow of a pool. So the kids have to do in-water starts. Really takes away from the competitive nature of the pool. And unfortunately, we've had a huge drop off in our membership.
And what's also happened with because of how this became an issue is because they need capital improvements. And the borough is strapped financially. The pandemic has hit us, and I'll go on tangents later on that they don't have the priorities in order in terms of what's important to the town. So what had happened with the pool, there's a pool commission that runs the pool. I mean, they're volunteers. And they hire a pool manager and the lifeguards, but the commission runs it. The borough decided to look into privatizing the pool. And I'm for looking to all alternatives in terms of, let's work the problem. But what happened was they found there was a pool in Pennsylvania that was privatized, a municipal pool. And so the borough administrator, the council liaison to the pool commission, and the borough administrator, I said that. The special projects manager, 3 of them went to Marple, Newtown, Pennsylvania to look at this pool, and they didn't tell a single person on the pool commission, and they blindsided them. It's like, okay, you want to at least, we run the pool, you want to tell us. And I think that was, we're looking at alternatives. If they would have just said, hey, we're thinking about this, somebody was pitching it, this company was pitching us for privatization. Okay, let's look it out. I mean, they also could look at, we're also looking into grants to get it. That it was just a question of lack of transparency to the people who are responsible for maintaining the pool, and that's the big issue.
Well, we're all interested in making Metuchen swimming competitive again, because it's an important topic, and to go around people's back that way and potentially raise fees and box people out. We just don't know. I'm all for lowering fees, however they do it. I'm all for it, but we all need to be part of the process.
And
it's not been transparent at all.
We had a little civil disobedience. Eric and I went to the pool outside and we're handing out flyers just to let the people know, who the pool members know, this is what happened, and we, just to get to the attention of what the lack of transparency. And I think, Eric,
multiple people were adamantly against privatizing the pool if they don't know the details. If we knew the details, that's one thing, but we don't know what's going on.
I mean that was, it's not so much privatization, it's like communication, being transparent and letting people know what's going on.
Absolutely. And I just want to point out too that we have a lot of Edison residents that actually go and that are members of that pool.
That's true.
And what you've actually outlined, that scenario, is a very familiar story to us, because we had a small swim club on Harding Avenue in North Edison, Woodside Swim Club. Kind of like a same story where it needed updates, it needed membership, but the fate of that pool, it ended up being sold, and now I believe there's 8 or 10 homes or something like that on the property. But when that swim club closed, you had a lot of Edison residents like, okay, now where do we go? Half of them went to off of Inman Avenue. Was that Oak Ridge Swim Club or something, if I get the name right? And then the other half ended up, getting memberships at Metuchen. So it affects a lot of Edison residents.
And I personally know about the Harding Pool simply because that borders Oak Tree Presbyterian Church, where my wife was pastor there for many years.
So then you're well
and the
familiar.
Summer camps that we would run Bible school, we'd make a deal with them to go. They could swim during the day. So we do know, and we miss that. So I'm familiar with that situation.
Right. And your main goal is to promote transparency, correct? If I'm not mistaken,
That
transparency
is
about this
the
whole
main
situation.
word, transparency.
Right.
Open communication, letting people know what our elected officials are doing.
So we can all make decisions for the best.
Yeah,
for
I
the
mean,
pool.
like I say, I have my personal biases about privatization just because of how it's been done in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But to not look at privatization is being foolish. You've got to look at all angles. It's just say, hey, let's look at it and see, is this a possibility? And tell the people. Don't blindside them, especially the people who are responsible for actually running the pool.
Yeah.
That's the key issue there, the transparency.
Yeah, agreed. So there was another thing, another item here on the list of things to talk about. I'm going to refer to it as the Galton Tract. Okay. Now, in all fairness, I started looking into it, but I actually didn't get much further than the company itself, Galton, and some of the history behind it. And possibly, Steve, can you give us a little more of a rundown?
Sure. Metuchen used to be a factory town, and there were two factory places on, it's Durham, New Durham. I always get okay. And one was Oakite, and I forget what Oakite manufactured, and the other was Galton Industries. Well, there were companies went out of business, and the tracks were empty. They started for the Oakite property, they built a recreational field. I always say Vitas Field. Some people have called it Vitas, but it's pronounced Vitas. And the rest of that property, there's a proposal to build like a senior living retirement community there, which I'm fine. I'm for that. And so that's a separate issue. But the Galton issue is they have, last night at the Borough Council meeting, they passed a resolution that changed the zoning for Galton. It's zoned for light industrial. And what has basically happened is they've closed off any future light industrial. They're claiming it's truck traffic and whatever that'll get rid of. So the companies there are still allowed to operate. They're grandfathered, but if they close or go out of business, the owners of that company can't sell it to another light industrial use.
Understood.
Which basically what that means in plain English is it's opening up for housing developments. And which is a big bone of contention. I mean, multi-dwelling housing units, apartments, condos, whatever. How many more do we need? I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb right here, in that I will wager that between November 3rd and December 31st, after the election and before the current officer are done with their terms, that there will be an announcement for the housing development in the Galton Tract. One of the sections, it's subdivided, like one part is wetlands and one part is, I forget, still remaining commercial. But there's a section called Section C, which the town planner from Looney, Ricks, and Kiss said, it's open for anything, like even at the previous council meeting mentioned it could be for housing. And the question is, like I say, going out on a limb, I will predict there will be an announcement made after November 2nd about apartments going in there. How many? It's pure speculation. I think a conservative number would be 200 apartments. Now, if I'm a betting man, and I'm not, I hedge my risk, but if the over and under, I would always bet on the over for that, just because they tend to overdo it. And I think it will bring more traffic. All those people in those units are going to have cars. They're going to have children that affect the school system. We're over bit, and the biggest portion is, I don't affect it because Borough Council doesn't affect your school budget, but it will raise probably school taxes because of the additional children that will be from these housing developments. That's why I like Oakite, because it's seniors. They're not going to have kids in the schools.
I think those days are over.
But that's basically the Galton Tract, I think, and what bothers me about that is it just strikes me as not being totally forthright about it. That's why I'm like I say, I hope to be wrong. I hope to say come January 2nd, I was wrong.
Sure.
That,
Right.
no apartments are going in there, but who knows? But I wouldn't bet that way. I know these guys, how they operate.
Yeah. And I would love to see what their, if that happens, if it does end up becoming housing, I would love to see what their estimate of children would be. Because I find we all know about the Charlie Brown's location on Plainfield Road, 23 townhomes. Out of 23 townhomes, the estimate of kids impact on the schools, I think they said it was something like 4 or 6 kids out of 23 townhomes, and it's just like no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second.
Well, let me give you a little bit of history. I will tell you that I've been in politics for 20 some years in town. I ran for council in 2005, and there was the big issue. They were tearing down the old Franklin School in Metuchen and build townhouses, and they said, there won't be any kids in the school. And a few years after it did get passed, the Democrats got their votes in. It's funny, there was an article in the New York Times about it, and then he was, at that point, former mayor of Metuchen, said he purposely lied, saying there wouldn't be any kids in school. It's like when he said it, it was printed in the New York Times. I have a paper copy of that.
Over 50 kids.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was the kind of like, okay,
schools.
we know that that's the kind. That's going back transparency 20 years, but that's why we have to be open and above board about it. I mean, if the people want it, then fine. If they're I know most people don't think like me, but at least I bring up the issues, and that's what the whole thing about Galton is. What's bothering me about lack of transparency there too.
Right.
Yeah. Eric, anything else? I mean, in terms of.
Well, it's from my standpoint, it's rateables as well. I mean, I understand we have no problem with bringing more people into Metuchen, but we need businesses too to help pay our taxes. Our taxes, my taxes have gone up substantially since I moved to
businesses
Metuchen.
don't put kids in the schools. Businesses really don't have their own
right.
private garbage hauling that isn't affecting the
That's right.
DPW.
Right.
It doesn't. Their police force is probably minimal effect on that. So that's the problem. That's why you want light commercial. I mean, I grew up in a steel town, and I understand what heavy industry is. The smell of coke ovens in the morning is not a very pleasant thing. But light industrial warehousing and commercial is nothing.
What's wrong with a little light industrial?
Yeah,
if it helps us with our taxes,
yeah.
so be it.
That's why.
Yeah, and we could all use a little break when it comes to taxes. That's for sure.
Right.
We're probably living in arguably the worst state in the country. When it comes to taxes, that's a totally different podcast.
Oh yeah, we could have 3 podcasts on that one alone.
About that.
Middle class keeps getting squoze. I mean, we're not all bankers and lawyers.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
So, the big topic.
Okay.
Changes coming to New Street, Metuchen.
May I'll start with just some background.
That sounds great. But before you start, I'm just going to bring up a graphic on the screen so our viewers could just give them a little bit of a rundown, so they know exactly where we're talking about. So here is the mouse is going down Main Street right here, and it's moving towards Route 1, going in this direction. We have Hillside Avenue on one side, New Street on the other side. And this is where the big municipal parking lot is, behind the stores right here on Main Street, right here. Mm-hmm. And this is what Greek on Main, right there on the corner.
That corner.
Yeah, this corner right here, I believe, is that restaurant Greek on Main. And we're actually talking about this section of New Street, correct?
Yes, and between Main Street and Pearl Street.
Between Main Street and Pearl Street, which is this stretch right here.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to, just to give folks, an idea as to what exactly we're talking about. But if you'd like to give some background, that'd be great.
It all started with a phone call from a police officer who was questioning could we do something about the Amtrak bridge and bridge strikes because it's too low. He called the New Jersey Transportation Authority, NJ. And that started the ball rolling to get a grant going. And a year ago, they had their first public meeting about what was, from Talmadge to Brunswick Avenue along Main Street, a whole safety improvements all along the way, not just Amboy Avenue and to get under the Amtrak bridge, but all the way along. There was chasing point. At the meeting in 2020, a year ago, in the public comments, one of them says, "Hey, can we close off New Street?" Well, the person that did that is in charge of the Metuchen Downtown Alliance, which that's a separate story. But anyway, and he said, could it be closed off? Well, that's fine. So this year's public hearing, they had a year to see what was going on, and the engineers presented. They had 2 safety alternatives for that intersection: New Main Street, Hillside, New Street. I mean, It's not really. It looks like it's one street, but it's angled. Hillside comes down, and then you go across Main, and then it becomes New Street. But on there, they had 2 alternatives. One where they just put lights, and there were some downsides to it. It was not a great one. You would lose some parking spaces on Main Street.
Okay.
Yeah, 14. But hey, we have a parking garage, and we have the other lots too that on there, and that could be it. And then, and they spent very little time talking about it, and then going down, they said, they spent all this time closing New Street. Well, the geography of Metuchen is there are only 3 streets that are through to Route 27 going through town. There's Amboy Avenue, Hillside/New Street, and Middlesex Avenue, which is Route 27. So if you close off that street, New Street, the traffic, the quote, you're saving for pedestrian safety, which truly, that is the most important reason why this study was put forth.
Right.
And that, let's not lose sight of that. But they were saying, we're closing it, traffic on that. But then also the grant that the feds are paying for it. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
That they'll pay for alternative 1. However, if we close New Street, that block of New Street, how to convert that into a pedestrian plaza is on Metuchen's dime. And we have so many other priority projects in this town. I mean, we mentioned the pool. We mentioned, we didn't mention, but our firehouse, there was a commission several years ago.
I've heard.
That the firehouse is literally crumbling.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
It's shocking to get a tour and go through it. And I mean, it's the first building I've ever seen with indoor gutters and downspouts from all the leaks in the ceiling. But that's another story. So basically, in terms of, I don't think either of the 2 alternatives are good, but in terms of alternative 1 is the least worst because it does improve pedestrian safety, but it has some downsides. It'll delay like cars going through the intersection because of the timed lights and arrows, and you'll lose some parking spaces on Main Street. It's not a good solution, but it's a paid-for solution.
Right.
And so that's that. I mean, there's a big brouhaha about that. I'll let Eric get into that, but that's the background information. It all started with a phone call from a police officer, not a borough official, a police officer. So
interesting.
Well, my only issue with closing New Street, I mean, there are multiple businesses on New Street. These are people that have been there for decades.
Right.
They're paying taxes. They're part of our rateables, and they're being left out to dry. They're going to lose business. Who knows? They may close, but they're up in arms. And nobody's, I mean, it doesn't seem to be, they might be listening to them, but they're not acting on what their concerns are. Right. So my concern is for the businesses on New Street, and there are many of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And if COVID wasn't devastating enough for some of these businesses, to add another layer of complexity to having them, get back to where they once were.
They just survived COVID, and now they're going to have to deal with not having any traffic going by their front shops.
Right before the front door.
It's devastating,
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I mean, both of you bring up some very valid points, and everybody in Metuchen, I hope you're listening. And I have one more question for the 2 of you. You're seeking seats on Borough Council. Steve, you mentioned you've ran once before?
I've run twice before.
Twice before.
Once in 2005, and then I ran last year by myself, virtually, 2 against 1. And I mean, I got 3,200 votes. I mean, it was a great turnout because of the presidential election year and a lot of emotions on that. And that was like against hurting us because of the national brand of Republicans are not good. I mean, we're Metuchen Republicans. We're local. But I think there are only 1,700 registered Republicans, and I got 3,200 votes. So I got votes from mostly unaffiliated and some other ones. But I got 800 more votes than the top of our ticket, the president. So, I mean, I know that people realize there's a local vote factor. I mean, we're Metuchen Republicans, and that's why we've done that. So
Right. And is this your first time running, Eric?
My first time running, and I'm simply running because I've been living here for a while, and I think I can help. I can be a good advocate for people in Metuchen.
Excellent.
That's why I'm.
Excellent. Well, I want to wish the two of you the best of luck. And
Thanks, Chris.
and one thing I could say is someone who has not run for anything. And although you're in a different town, but I could definitely appreciate your efforts. It's a lot of time and a lot of effort that goes into something like this. It's applaudable.
It's
And,
involved.
it's good for my
So-
health because I had some medical tests today, and I need to exercise more. And walking around neighborhoods and knocking on
There you go,
doors is
door
what
knocking.
I'm doing. And I mean, that's Metuchen retail politics. And I've been trying to do it under the radar because hey, but at the same time, people don't. The beard is new this year, and I've lost some weight since last year. So it's like, are you the same
go.
guy that ran last year? Okay, I am.
Yes, I am. Well, Eric Lignell, Steve Kitsko, thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Chris.
it's definitely a pleasure to have you both here.
Well, thank you for having us.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And everybody else, all our loyal viewers of Edison Now, thank you for tuning in and, for this special Metuchen edition. Hope everybody is well. And as always, we'll see you all on the flip side, everybody. Have a great evening.
Yeah.